not everybody has a single opinion, and it isn't a single entity. Reddit isn't a single entity. Tumblr isn't a single entity. Feminism isn't a single entity. When you simplify it to that point, you basically make it so you can't discuss the real arguments. The reason why, again, the social justice warriors are so problematic is they're discussing a version of the fine young capitalists that doesn't actually exist. And a reason why I think that they have so much problems with this project is that some of our supporters often see the social justice warriors as one entity. I honestly think that if the social justice warriors were required to actually discuss like issues with each other, they would probably find more fault. They would find so much fault with each other that they would probably come over more to the 4chan side. Again, the designers, we're never going to shift the charities. The designer, how are the designers involved in the project handling and the shift in money? We are never going to shift the money that was raised for the Indiegogo campaign because we made a promise. And for no other reason than like the primary reason is that you won't trust me if we don't keep our promises. The secondary reason is I keep the problem. I made the promise to 4chan, and arguably speaking, the internet seems to assume that 4chan gets angry if you're mean to them. And my statement is, I don't think anything could get 4chan angrier at me than taking their money and giving it to something that they don't want. And while I'm saying that, you know, my professional career can survive arguments on Twitter and arguments with indie developers, I'm not sure if the entire hate of 4chan may like manifest itself on a physical plane and physically strangle me. And if that was to happen, that would not surprise me in any way. Okay, for these just tuning in, what happened is somebody hacked the Indiegogo page. The Indiegogo page is down. What we're doing is we're just waiting on support so that we can put the page back up and we can do a larger password. And we've contacted them. They've got my email. If for some unknown reason somebody is listening from Indiegogo, please fix this problem. But also you can contact me at media@TheFineYoungCapitalists, and you can talk to us directly. Holy crap! So many messages in my inbox now. Uh, Good discussion. Hey, I specifically never mentioned that 4chan will rape you. What do you think of porn companies sponsoring esports teams? Here's the thing. Esports teams need money and they need sponsorship to increase their viewership and to stabilize the base, to stabilize their viewer base. I think they should take money whoever provides it and whoever like keeps the standard of esports. And my big thing about it is like I know porn is still porn, but it's still like again, as I referenced, selling sugary drinks to children. I'm not sure if selling sugary drinks to children has the moral superiority over porn. I know they feel they do, but they might not. God, no, please don't. If you need a, if you, if they want a job, please don't email me like thinking that I could hire an infinite number of people. Like, and keep in mind, I work in media, and media is not the best job for people. Best design. I need to actually go over a lot of them, but my main statement is every design seems to be better than the one that I presented. TF, you say I'm involved. It's actually you all have to vote together technically. Technically not required for one thing. You're not talking Vivian. I love Vivian. Vivian's great. I really like the image that you guys created. I really like the backstory of the character. I really like how you're using it in a bunch of ways, but I really like it how it's not all about the sexualization of the character. It's actually about her personality and what she means to you and what she represents. And the biggest thing about that is changing the narrative. And I really appreciate that happening. I just find that especially people in the media just like to pull the most controversial stories. They don't like to pull the stories. They don't like to talk about what is actually happening. And that's because it takes a lot more time, and that's because it takes a lot more input, and they're more likely to be wrong. So I understand why they're doing that. But I do think that what's happening is both interesting and is both heartwarming. And although the headlines will definitely be hackers take down the Fine Young Capitalist site, I don't want that to be the only thing that the discussion is. I want it to actually be that even at this time and when we were most worried, we really wanted to do a project that just signified what it was about. And I didn't write this because I again I both didn't have time and felt that it was a little self-serving. But basically, money is right now the lifeblood of this production. And I do know that doing the T-shirt will divert some of the money away from the fine young capitalists. And I honestly feel, even with all the support, that the most important thing in this project is to destroy the narrative that's being created that men don't want women in games, that it's a boys' club. And I think that we've shown that it isn't. But that is the only piece of information that nobody seems to be asking me about and that doesn't seem to be printed. And I think everybody's involved, everybody who's done something is great. I think it's been good to change that narrative. Are you the boy? Are the streamer a boy or a girl? You sound like you could be either. The wonderful things that I learned from Twitch chat. I am a male, both from birth. I always identified as one. I can program in C++. I can talk about the API and the engine. The engine isn't written in C++. It uses OpenGL and OpenGLES on different platforms. So on iOS and Android, it'll use the ES, and then on PC and Mac, it tends to use OpenGL. It's a pretty standard, just a straight loop, and it's going to be using JavaScript for most of the scripting so that anybody can do stuff with it. It also uses like most of the asset acquisition is done through JSON, and the assets can be separate files, so you can just literally just put your own art and swap them. So it's pretty lazy. The main thing about it though is it's really like a 2D engine, and it's really a simple engine, and that was chosen on purpose so that we could present the code and that people could like understand it, because pushing matrices and pulling matrices, especially if it's your first project, can be really, really complicated. Not having a camera or having like the camera calls that we do, which really just move the screen area around, makes it easier to understand if you want to make games. And inevitably speaking, I would love for, maybe this to be maybe this to inspire one or two other women to make their own games. I do feel though, again, that as we get into the coding thing, that will be where the most of our criticism comes from, and that's just because you can't please everybody in coding. With the shirt, some people are pleased, some people are not. I feel that I honestly feel that that's good. But with the coding, I feel that we won't be in charge. We won't be communicating as much like this at that point, and that will foster some ill will. And I don't know what to do with that. All I can say is that we're trying, and the budget that we're giving, I feel we can do the project with it, but that's still not a AAA budget. That's still not a AAA budget, and we will be doing bridging with tax credits and all sorts of other business stuff that no one gives a fuck about but me, to make sure that we have as much money to make the production as possible. Yay, Dongerino, another thing that I'm worried about Googling. Uh, the question was, I'm incredibly impressed that this chat isn't being dongerinoed. So I will look that up at some point when I'm not worried about my psychology being destroyed. Have I read SICP today? Another thing that I get to learn about. What is SICP? Let's not close the email that's waiting for Indiegogo. SIV, Structures and Interpretations of Computer Programming. Ah, yes. I'm gonna say that our calls are like pretty. We don't have a lot of finesse. It's just the way that it's set up. It's less likely to crash, and that's just because we weren't really sure about where the project's going to go. I feel that if at the end of the project, when we do all the programming, what the lesson that we'll learn from it is most of all never to do the programming like that again. Hmm. Oh yeah, Vivian cosplay will be awesome. Vivian cosplay will be the ultimate subversion ever. Make sure that that happens, someone. Interactive graphic novel of Vivian, that's not that bad an idea. That wouldn't be that difficult to do. That would be something that would be easy to be monetized. That may be something that you guys might want to create together. Customer happiness email. Help centers, forms. Maybe we should do a forum post here. No, we shouldn't do a forum post here. We should definitely just wait for them to contact me. Everybody, fuck it. Like, sorry, who will get early access to the code of the production? Everybody. It's going to be open source. We're really hesitant about that because we think all it's going to be is people telling us to do our jobs better, and they'll be right. But I do feel that they should be able to at least see the code as it's processing, especially because technically they own part of the production. I do think that you'll find that we will end up like doing pushes to the code like once a week or once every 2 weeks instead of every day. Um, and I just feel that's just to make the white noise stop. As I said, I'm very shocked about like how people are like so dedicated to this kind of a thing. Again, the people who are setting up the streams, or this may be him just playing, or it may be a video. I'm not sure. Either way, it's like him setting up all of this and letting me talk for over an hour 40 is great. Are we certain it happened? Yeah, we're certain it happened, and we are because um, this will literally be a narrative that will. I don't really. Inevitably speaking, what you want to do is you want to lower the anger between both like this social justice warrior movement and the internet at large. Well, internet at large. All this is going to do is fuel anger. Again, I appreciate that people are having this discussion, but honestly speaking, if we were actually doing this, it's just we wouldn't have done it at 5 o'clock in the morning when no one is watching. That would be like the the dumbest way to say it, but it's legitimately true. We wouldn't have done it in this time zone. And we wouldn't have done it on a Sunday when no one's going to be covering us if we were actually going to do it. But I think that, again, there will be conspiracies. There will always be conspiracies. But keep that in mind with some of the other conspiracies that are going on with the industry, that sometimes the person is just fucking incompetent. And that sometimes the way that the system is set up isn't to his benefit. So again, on Indiegogo in the morning on a Sunday, we're hoping that support will get to us. And I know this may be a problem, but if a couple people could start tweeting, please don't make it trend, that may make it happen quicker. Sorry. People are saying I'm not an angry guy. I actually am an angry guy. It just won't help in this case. I have quit productions because of how people are being treated, both myself and other people, and people actually do know me as a very angry guy. At this point, though, me being angry will accomplish nothing, and there's a solution to this problem. If this was the very last hour of funding and the production was about to fall, you would hear me speaking in an entirely different manner. This is something we can work on. This is something we can do, and not everything is lost. Yeah, I think I want to talk about why it is it's a more this the such just a warrior move might be a bit more in America than it would be in Europe. To explain the difference, but the biggest difference between America and Europe is like how they address social problems. So, like in America, the problem is that, to put it bluntly, uh, they don't want immigrants taking welfare money. Um, and in Europe, the problem is that they don't want people taking their jobs. And yes, America complains about they're taking their gerbs. Please feel free to spam chat with that. But it's much different, especially in France, where there's such a high rate of employment, or other European countries where there's such a high rate of employment, and they have so many policies to prevent employment there. While in the United States, basically, it kind of looks the other way with a lot of both illegal immigration and illegal work. So one of the things that this causes is it causes people to want to enter the social justice movement as it to be their occupation. Like, they want it to be their job, but there isn't a strong social net. So there's this continual fear that if they don't get attention constantly, they won't be able to actually like pay rent. And you get this kind of thing where it's just constant fear 24/7. And that, it's not as helpful as you would think. Now, it's not to say there aren't people in Europe that aren't doing exactly the same thing, but I find that there aren't as many people that are in so much fear that they're willing to anything to attract enough attention and to get people to feel sad enough that they can pay their rent. And uh, again, you I'm not criticizing anybody whose job it is to be in the social justice movement, because some of my friends are there. I just find that there is this huge seduction to just telling people what they want to hear. Um, and honestly speaking, the person that won't be named, if I wanted to appeal to everybody, that would be entirely the conversation, and I drag other people that should not be named into it. Um, and I feel that even if I did that, we probably would have gotten money a lot faster. It just wouldn't impart the social change. And I feel that the most important things to do is to change society. Americans are easily butthurt. I would argue that like a lot of people are easily butthurt. In Canada, the line I always say is, "I'm not offended, but," and then they create a situation where there would be. And when they did, I you know I've done a bunch of controversial productions that I should not discuss, but the number one people thing that people will say is, "I'm not offended by this, but." Press start to continue. He just contacted us. I assume it's a reference to press heart to continue, which would be a Zelda reference and also a reference to. She must have a real name, but I think people call her Dodger. TFYC confirmed for doing porn. Uh, just yeah. Uh, I am just realizing how many people. None of Autobotica does. A surprisingly number of the people in Toronto, not myself. So unfortunately for the internet, oh, actually, very fortunately for the internet, but some of the other people on the production have done sex work. In this case, though, soft sex work. So most of it has been calling or camming. What do I think about the Republicans and the monarchy to Canada? I think that generally speaking, Canada used to have at one point like five political parties that were all active. And to explain it, they had the left wing, the crazy left wing, the right wing, the crazy right wing, and for some unknown people, the people who think that French is really cool. And at that point, it was actually a relatively interesting conversation because both the extreme right and the extreme left had a party to say their point, and then the moderate left and the moderate point could actually talk about reasonable things. So it would be like the lefts would be like, we need to give more money to the poor to stop poverty, and then the right would say we need to increase more jobs so there's less poverty, and then the extreme left would say communism is awesome, and the extreme right would say we should turn the poor people into meat so that we should eat them. And then the Parti de Québécois, which is the Quebec party that really likes French, that would say none of this is important as Quebec getting its independence. And although that sounds like a horrible system, it actually was an interesting way to actually have people talking about things that matter. The issue right now is that especially the conservative movements in any country are more likely to align with each other because the left is so associated with activism. So I feel part of the reason why Canada has a government that's right now is because the left is divided. And I feel the reason why, again, in the United States it's so polarized is the right. If the Tea Party formed their own party, even if they voted with the Republicans, it would allow the moderate Republicans to have a voice. Right now, the Tea Party is just sort of this thing where you can be like, say, I'm going to say something crazy, and if you're Republican, you agree, and if you agree with it, we're Republican, and if you don't agree with it, well, then we're a crazy fringe party. And that's problematic because it lets you double dip. There's many political groups in provinces. Oh yeah, in our provinces, in Ontario, I had to vote from 13 different parties. All of them had interesting platforms. So yes, in our province, or even there are tons of parties in Canada. There are only the Green Party is actually we basically have three parties that are left wing, one party that's right wing, and a party that thinks that Quebec is amazing. When we say, okay, legalities on publishing your balance statements, unfortunately, we are contracting Autobotica, so they have discretion on how private they can be with where the money's being spent. But one of the nice things about them being a separate contractor is that we can, if they don't do what we say, we can seek legal action against them. So we want to work with them, but it's trust and verify. But you won't be able to know who gets what. We will show all of the money that comes in, and unless there's an NDA arrangement, with the majority of the companies don't seem to have, then we'll just say this amount came in, this was spent on royalties to the creators, blah, 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 blah. This was spent on upkeep of the website. This was spent on marketing. Now the rest is divided. One of my worries about this project is we keep using the word net a lot. And normally, don't take net points, guys. If someone says net points, especially in television, it's important to understand that the net doesn't normally exist. The only reason you should trust us is that we are taking the net as well. So our percentages should be equal to your percentages, like because of the way that we worded everything. So it should keep us honest. But if you ever see us taking gross points, make sure that everybody else is getting gross points, because that's when funny accounting comes in. Are we excited for Hotline Miami 2 or Indifferent? I actually liked Hotline Miami 1. I felt it was exactly the right length, though. I don't know. I really want to see what they do to keep me interested in it. I actually felt the first one was surrealist, and if I smoked marijuana, I apologize. I'm not cool enough. I thought that would be a great game to play while high. It really felt like something that you didn't have to think. It was an experience at all levels. And I really like what they do at for doing for two. And again, this helps them in no way. But as a feminist, I want to say that a lot of the issues that they were dealing with that they had criticism about, I don't feel like the criticism was valid. I feel that as a media creator, you should create context, and you should explore any issue that you like. And just because something offends me, which by the way, Hotline Miami didn't, that doesn't give me the right to say that you can't do it. How do I feel like patriarchy and privilege? Uh, Generally speaking, like when we started the project, people told us that I feel that when people aren't thinking about the issues, when they're just hearing the word and then making up the story in their head, I feel like it will be difficult for me to get them on my side. And all I can really do is do something that I feel is good, and